even if it wasn't Shabbos. The pasuk says, "Be'etzem hayom hazeh k'may b'yom kippur." It says there, "Be'etzem hayom hazeh." And this is the first Beis hamikdash, which is a pella. All that happened was that Samach Melech Bavel al Yerushalayim.
The beginning of the Matzah.
Yeah, the beginning of the Matzah. The walls of Yerushalayim was still complete. The Eden were alive. The Beis Hamikdash was still working. And Ad Kedei Kach, the pasuk says, "Be'etzem bezman shemekachim apiriyah." If it fell out, any of the other Taniyas in Shabbos would be nitcha because you're not allowed to fast in Shabbos. But over here it was Be'etzem hayom hazeh, like Yom Kippur, it was doicha even Shabbos. Fragt sich the Shaila why. The Rebbe says a pshat, a pi pshat, and then a pshat, a pi chsid is unbelievable. Which has to do, if you're a contractor, it has to do with the second, third Beis hamikdash, and if you learn the Sicha tonight, you should maybe buy some stock in the steel companies, and you'll find out why. The Rambam Hilchas Tainiyos Perek He Alocha Aleph. Yeshem Yomim Shekol Yisrael Mesanim Behem Ibnei Tzora Shira Behem Kedei Loirer Alavovitz Leftech Tarekat Tshuva V'yezem Zikoron L'Maseinu Aroim L'Masei Avesenu Shekem Maseinu Ata Shegorim Lohem V'lon Oisan Atzora Shebezikoron V'Armeilam Noshav L'Heitev Shenem V'Misvadus Avoinam V'Savoin Chatois Avoisam. So the union of the day of the fast is to open the heart to doing tshuva. Like the Rebbe used to talk at every one of the Taniyas, and he said it's Dvivrei Kvushin. It says in the Shulchan Aruch that you're supposed to say Dvivrei Kvushin. And the Rebbe said, Tashlich b'metzulas yom, tichbash b'metzulas yom kol chatoisam. When you remind Yidden to do tshuva, right away when you remind them to do tshuva, already all the sins are drowning in the ocean. Halacha Beis, ve'eluhein, what are the days of the fasting? Yom HaShlishu b'Tishrei shebe'nere gedalgi ben achika v'nichbis kachelas Yisrael n'sheres v'sivev l'hosam golusam. That the goals became complete. Sira b'taves shaboy samach malach bavel nebuchadnezzar Yerosh Yerushalayim v'vir v'motzah v'motzah. Shivas b'tamas chamisha dvarim eirabay shtabra luchas batla tamid by serishkun hufka ir Yerushalayim b'churban sheni b'saras afostumas Rosh Hashanah v'hem etzevet beichel. Then tishabav chamisha dvarim. Nigzei Yisrael b'midrash shalei konsular, tzchar abayis b'rishon ha'mashniya, nilkes gedoyle beita shmai b'hoi b'alot mervav v'smisrav v'melech kodl v'dimu kol Yisrael, v'gedoyle chacham v'shu melech ha'mashiach v'nafel b'yad ha'remeh v'nerge kulu b'yitzar gedoyle k'marchur ben ha'mikdash v'boi b'yam ha'muchel ha'paranis choresh tron suprus arosha es ha'heichel v'sviva v'l'kayim ha'shenema tzin tzad dechoresh. And the Arba Tzumas Eilu Mufurashim B'Kabbalah Tzara Marvi, Tzara Chamishi, Tzara Marvi, Shivasa B'Tama, Shebe Chodesh HaRavi, Tzara Chamishi, Zeh Tisha B'Av, Shebe Chodesh Chamishi, Tzara Shvi, Shloisha B'Tisha, Shehu B'Chodesh Shvi, Tzara Matziri Zeh, Asara B'Teves, Shehu B'Chodesh HaSiri. And the pasuk, it goes in the order of the month. Shivasa B'Tama is called Tzara Marvi, and then Tisha B'Av is called Tzara Chamishi, and then the Tzum Gedalia, right? And this is called K'tzai Masri, because taves is Chodesh Asiri. But Be'emes, in the order of things, the first Tanis that was ever Nigzar is Asara B'Teves, because the first thing that ever happened for Gzeiras Hatainis was in the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash was Asara B'Teves. Then, once was Hufko'ir, they made the Gzeiras Shivas B'Tamis. Once they destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, or Tisha B'Av, they made. And once the Rachmana Litzlan, the Gedalia ben Achikum was assassinated, they made the Tainus of Gedalia, which is the third of Tishrei. So the first Tainus that they were ever set was Nasara B'Teves. Second Shivas B'Tamis, the third is Tisha B'Av, and the fourth is Tzum Gedalia. It all starts in the beginning. It all starts in the beginning. It's a Dvar Pella. I was coming into 770 on taves. I thought maybe the Rebbe, sometimes you're lucky the Rebbe's room is opened. Last year I was lucky. I came taves.
Oh, no.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
The door was unlocked. The other door was in the Rebbe's room.
What, the Rebbe's on?
Yeah,
Nobody was
maybe,
there.
maybe I'll be lucky again. No, this time I was lucky.
Has it ever happened?
It happened last year, taves. I came, all the doors were open. Came in, I davened, 20 minutes, I left. I have no idea what happened.
Wow.
Someone forgot to lock the doors.
Somebody forgot to lock.
Oh, but hey, David, they figure like.
Maybe, I don't know. I figured maybe this
No,
year
but
I'll be
usually
lucky.
some
Well,
people, people
was it in
someone's
the
there.
morning or
People-
the afternoon?
Afternoon.
people can take stuff.
Because the morning they daven.
They daven, but there's an afternoon. So I thought maybe I'd be lucky again. No, this time it was locked. So I figured I'm here already. That's a taves. So I'll be there for a few minutes. They have in the Rebbe used to have their a case that they wanted. They should showcase the new books that
Right.
Tahas is
Right in
publishing.
the front, on the
Right.
right. Right there on
And
the
they
right.
have now a video there playing videos that the people walking by the Rebbe and getting $1, which is that's the spot where the Rebbe used to give the dollars. So I see a video of this guy, a close confidant to Mr. Shamir, Eliakim Rubenstein,
Oh,
that he comes to the Rebbe and he asks the Rebbe for a bracha. Oh, the Rebbe was very sharp with him. The Rebbe said that Mr. Shamir was the only person that voted against the Camp David Accord. And what's happening with him? Why is he becoming so weak and so
Shamir.
apologetic?
You're supposed to be a strong stone.
He was strong for a while. He was.
So he said, "Gefunden, no, we're very strong." It's like the Rebbe tzach gemacht, nicht wissen. The Rebbe said, "But he's not." And then you hear and then the truth comes out. It's, how does the Rebbe know? How does the Rebbe know? How does the Rebbe know? And the Rebbe said, "This
question.
exactly. This country was founded on principle. When the English were against them and even the French were against them, there was a matter of principle. If Mr. Shamir will explain to to President Bush and to Mr. Baker, James Baker, remember
Did you read the
that?
story finally?
Yeah.
I didn't read it yet.
The one
So James Baker and Bush.
That explains.
Oh, so I'll have to read it tonight.
They called it Sarah Oifen.
Right. If you will explain it to them that this is critical for Israel's survival, they will understand. They will understand. But Israel has to explain it with full clarity. And the Rebbe said, if Israel will even try to be mevater a little bit, the Rebbe said, it's hard to know at which point you stop to be mevater. At which point you stop. At that point, no one understood what the Rebbe wanted.
When was that?
This was.
When was it?
So let me explain what happened. The United States had a coalition of people that went in, that went in against Iraq.
There's
Right.
a story. That was August 1st,
Scuds.
1990.
Scuds were coming.
Right.
Right. Mr. Bush and his Secretary of State leaned heavily on Israel, that Israel should sit like Tatalach.
Not the totality.
Israel should sit like Tatalach.
Not doing.
Tatalach.
Nothing. 39 Scuds came in.
Tatalach. You would expect, after the war was over and Israel took all this on the chin, and they were told to sit like Tatalach, that they would be rewarded. Instead, Israel was pushed into what was called then the Madrid Conference, which was the precursor to the Oslo Conference, which ended up with the Oslo Accords.
Right.
So that was
Those are so activists.
you're getting where I'm getting
Was
at.
it? Yeah.
The Rebbe, but the interesting thing is, we know now that this Mr. Bush, as all the eulogies that are being made for him, not such a tzaddik. He might have not been as a big Rosh, maybe as someone that came later than him,
Jimmy Carter.
or than someone that came before him.
Obama and Bin Laden.
Exactly.
No,
But
he took all
he
the money.
was not a friend of Israel. But it's
No
interesting that in this video clip, the Rebbe says that in his opinion, if Israel would come to President Bush, and it's interesting because now when you read about it, it was not that he was an anti-Semite per se.
But he
He
didn't
was a
have all the
wasp.
facts
He had
to
he didn't have a
facts.
special affinity for Israel. He cared for the American interests. And he thought that that was in America's interest to throw Israel under the bus. But the Rebbe said that if they would explain it, nicht mit akshonis, the Rebbe said, not with stubbornness, not with that brash, sabra attitude, but with softness, to explain it, the Senisht Avtsalachis, in Israel, in this Nit Avtsalachis, but that this is critical for Israel's survival. The Rebbe felt that Bush would listen to it. And the Rebbe had very strong expressions. The Rebbe said, these weren't his words, but there was some other time when the Rebbe said that this is going to be a Bechia L'Doides. This is going to be a cry for all generations. If Israel ever enters even a little bit of negotiations. And at the time, well, Mr. Shamir really said that it was not that he is giving any concessions to the Arabs, it was just that he's being forced by James Baker, and he wants to satisfy Bush. He's just going to have, it's just going to be a sham. But it turns out that it wasn't just a sham. This really got the ball rolling. There was a Madrid conference, and that legitimized the idea of such a conference. Shamir's government went, and then came Rabin's government, and they said, well, we're going to continue the conference. And the conference continued in Oslo, and the rest is history. The Rebbe saw before when the thought of the first conference came up, that's where the Rebbe was Eish Lahova. Similar to that, it was for all the Lubavitch Chassidim who remember that after the 67 war, the Rebbe was very anxious. The Rebbe said that Israel is not doing the right thing to prevent the next war, and if Israel doesn't do the right thing right now, there's going to be another war. There's going to be and what's remarkable is that before 67 people were very worried, and the Rebbe said there'll be simcha, there'll be big miracles, and as soon as they won the war and the whole world was jumping, the Rebbe was like really upset, because the Rebbe knew that these Israelis were not doing the right thing at this time, because they were sending a message, the wrong message to the world. The Rebbe said that this is the time. This is the time. So the same thing here when it comes to Asara B'Tavis. True that the actual Churban was Tisha B'Av. The breaching of the walls of Yerushalayim, Shivas B'Tamas. But the first thing was Samach Melech Bavel Yerushalayim. That was the opportunity for the Yidden to do tshuva. That was the opportunity. Not Erev Yom Kippur 73, the day they won the war in 67, and the time when Egypt kept on making advances against Israel all those years, and the same thing throughout the history. In the beginning, when you nip it in the bud, what Israel's doing now is the right thing when they're busting these tunnels that Hezbollah is making in the north, because we can't wait for them to use this is the time to destroy the tunnels. Therefore, the Rebbe says, this is the most of Chumre de Ketonias, Etzem Hayoim Hazeh, when the Bekoyach, because this is when the whole thing started. Asara B'Tavis is when it started. Asara B'Tavis is when it all started. And then later came Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, Tisha B'Av, and some Gedalia. Therefore, the biggest chomer is in this tainus. Now, you have to look everything Midah Tova, and you have to look at the other side of the coin. When the Jews were in a siege, nothing happened at first. The only thing that happened was that there was a time for them to do tshuva and to be ba'achtos. And that was an opportunity that they needed to use. So also, Bizman Hazeh, at the one hand, there's something very chumradik about this fast, on the other hand, there's something very special about this fast. When this fast is going to turn into a Yom Tov, it's probably going to be the biggest Yom Tov. Because if in the tzad,
the way it started.
So then in the Yom Tov, it's also going to be the biggest Yom Tov.
After the 6th Day War was a big Baalei Tshuva's movement. One of the biggest start.
So the Rebbe has a moiridik thing to explain the godless of Asara B'Tavis. Apich Chassidus. Let's look in Yecheskel, Perek Dalet, Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet. As the Eibishter tells Yecheskel what's going to happen in Yerushalayim, he said like this. With Yecheskel, there's always this symbolism. Like last week's Parsha, he tells him to take the two pieces of wood, to carve out Yosef, to carve out Yehuda, put them together, put them on top, glue them together. All these things, he should sleep on his right side and then his left side. He should make the bread with all kinds of grain, the Ezekiel bread. I don't know why they think it's like a very healthy bread. In the Tanakh, it's supposed to be the bread of torture. It's supposed to be really the nasty bread, the type of bread the Jews are going to eat in the days of starvation. It became a fancy item in the food stores. Expensive.
Yeah.
I know. That's the curse. You spend so much money, you have nothing left in your pocket again. I don't understand. The Ezekiel bread in Yecheskel is a sign of a big curse, not of a blessing. A sign of sickness, not of health. Akopona.
That was v'nafochu.
Nafochu, yeah. So in this Pedek, in the Cheskel, the Eibusha says like this: Va'ata ben odam, kach lecho leveina, take a leveina, a brick. V'nasata oisa lefonecha, v'chakoisa le ir es Yerushalayim. Take a paintbrush and start painting.
Wow.
Yerushalayim. Okay. Once you finish painting the whole city of Yerushalayim around the brick, v'nasata le motzer, uvonisa le dayek, v'shafachta le soilala. You know, like with Legos, he should play with Legos. He told them to make a Lego game, the original Lego. He should build a tower. He should pour sand from a sandbox, like in those days in the war when they tried to breach the gates. So they would pour a lot of sand, and then they would build a bridge on the sand to get up to the top of the... So he told them, you take a little brick, paint Yerushalayim, build this thing, bring sand, build this little bridge out of Lego, and then samta aleh machnos v'sim aleh chorim savib. Put soldiers around it. And this is all miniature. This is all miniature.
Wow.
All miniature. You should make this miniature thing. In the Bronx, we used to go with the kids on Hanukkah every year. They have, in the botanical gardens, they have a thing called a train show. They have this guy that's there with he takes acorns and all kind of Narishkeit.
Right now.
Yeah. If it's growing. When we came there the first year, it was like, and every year it's growing. They build more buildings, and they have they build these miniatures, and they have today, by now they have most of the landmark buildings all over New York, and they have all the bridges. It's just fascinating. So the Eibusha said to Yecheskel, go build a little miniature Yerushalayim, go build a whole, and this is going to be to show the Jews that there's going to be a motzur around Yerushalayim.
So he was the first artist.
Exactly. Then va'ata kach lecha machvas barzel v'nasata oisa kir barzel beinoch uvein ha'ir. You should take a machvas is not almost what you think of a frying pan. Before Shem said it was not exactly a frying pan where you fry blintzes and eggs. It was sort of like this metal sheet, a flat metal sheet that they would pour on it like flour and water thing, and they'd make like these lafas on it.
Pancake or something.
Or pancake.
Laffa, right.
So it's like a flat piece of metal. Take that sheet of metal and put it between you and that whole production of the city and the sand and the little soldiers around. Put it like between you and stand and hold the metal sheet. V'achanois poneo eleho v'hoisa v'motzer v'tzarto le'oisi leveis Yisrael. This is a sign to the Jewish people that there's going to be trouble. That if the Jews did tshuva, they would have turned everything around. But this was, you take this little brick, paint Yerushalayim, bring the sand, build this little towers, make these little soldiers stand around, take the metal sheet and put it between you and the city. In other words, it's like a metal sheet between the Eibishter and Yerushalayim.
And you couldn't get them to...
Trouble?
Huh?
Did they get the trouble doing these things, like
From
from
the-
the kings and from the...
Some of them did. Yecheskel didn't, but some of them did.
No, the question is why people didn't like the... I thought the times of Yecheskel, they had the most nisim. They will have
So the shaila is
and
why
that's
didn't
how
the Eden listen? Okay, it's a good question.
Let's get also with the Makara.
Well, so frek the Rebbe, what's the idea of this nevuah? So the Rebbe has a biur, unbelievable. As I said, tonight you're going to want to buy stock in the steel companies. Barzel, sagt the Rebbe, symbolizes the Churban Beis hamikdash. Why? Simple. Barzel is out of the question when building the Beis HaMikdash. Number one, the pasuk says, "V'abayis b'benoisa even shlema, u'makavois v'hagaris and kol kli barzel loy nishma b'abayis b'hibenoisa." You couldn't hear any knocking of metal. Metal was done outside this premise of the Beis HaMikdash, but on the premise of Beis HaMikdash there was no barzel.
They used the shamir.
Furthermore, in the Mizbeach they couldn't even use im mizbach avonim tasali lo sivne esem gozis ki charbacho enafta leva tachalaleh. Chazal say that barzel is nivra lekatza yom of shalodim ein ze bedin shiyuna fa mekatzer alamarich. So barzel was never used in the premise of the Beis HaMikdash. Furthermore, the Medrash says v'zoytza truma shetik chomitom zohov v'chesev unachoshes. Says the Medrash avol barzel ein ksiv kan. Loy b'mishkan v'loy b'beis hamikdash loma shenim shal boy Edom shechrivu beis hamikdash, because Edom is considered barzel and they destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. So you're not supposed to have any barzel in the building of the Beis HaMikdash. So barzel represents the antithesis of the Beis HaMikdash, the opposite of the Beis HaMikdash. So when he said they'll put up a mechitza shar barzel between the Eibush and the Yidden, they'll be made out of barzel, which sews on a very strong mechitza. The Rebbe says, how about turning it around? There's also a concept of barzel and kedusha. When a Jew does the barzel and kedusha, he turns around the negative barzel and turns it into positive barzel. What's the barzel of kedusha? The Gemara says, in the Gemara we learned, Kol Talmud Chochem she'eini kosher kabarzel eini Talmud Chochem. Teksiv eretz asher avoneh barzel al tikra avoneh ela boineh. That the Yid has to be strong like barzel. In this world, to stand up against this world, the Yid has to be as strong as barzel. Chassidus says, Ke'am kshei oirefu v'salachta lavoneinu l'chatzenu l'chatonu, that the Yidden have a stiff neck. There's the bad and there's the good. There's the nation of the stiff neck. They stand up strong against all the nisyonis of the world. So when the etzem and neshama is called barzel, so there is the positive barzel, that thing that the stubborn Jew that stands up to the world, that turns around the negative barzel and turns it into something good, which is eretz asher avoneh barzel. Furthermore, the Medrash says that Zois HaTruma shetikchu mitom zov v'kesav v'nachoshes. Medrash says that zov v'kesav v'nachoshes is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Zov is Avram, Kesav is Yitzchak, Nachoshes is Yaakov, and also the three bottom hamikdashes is the first Beis HaMikdash Avram, the second Yitzchak, the third is Yaakov. So the Baal HaTosfos say a beautiful word. They say like this: Zov is a Rosh Tovis, Zeh hanoisen body. That person is giving tzedakah, he's healthy, but he's just giving tzedakah because, not like you see in Israel, they're always sending out this thing, kupas ha'ir. The guy is putting in money and then he's cranking out Yeshuas. No, that's not why he's giving tzedakah. He's giving tzedakah because it says v'chei achicha imach. He wants to help another Jew, not because he wants to bring out Yeshuas v'atzolas from the other side of the well. Zeh hanoisen body. He's giving his body. Next lower level is kesef. Kisheyesh sakonas pachad. That's talking the kupas ha'ir signs from Bnei Brak. He has a pachad, and then he's giving tzedakah because of that. A lower level is nachoshes. Nesinas choyle she'omar tnu. That's the lowest level. So the Rebbe says that this is corresponding. The first level of Beis HaMikdash was, the Yidden was in the highest level of Kedusha. Zeh hanoisen body. That's what the first Beis HaMikdash is compared to Zov, to Avram Avinu. Second Beis HaMikdash was already missing things. There was Yesh Sakonas Pachad. And then there is the third Beis HaMikdash, which is Kedu with Yaakov Avinu, which is Nechoshesh. The Rebbe says, which is really before Beis HaMikdash comes, Yidden are in Golus. So the Yidden are in Golus, and they have what to do with the Nechoshes, the Nochosh Agadmoini. And they're choyla because they're in Golos. So they say to the Eibishter, choyla shama tenu, please give us the Geula, the Beis HaMikdash Shlishi. Once the Beis HaMikdash comes, what's the Beis HaMikdash itself? The third Beis HaMikdash is Barzel. Because Barzel is the strongest thing. The Beis hamikdash Shlishi is a Beis Nitzchi, it'll be everlasting. And Barzel is something that's everlasting. Wood, rock, all these things. Today when they build buildings, right? What do they build buildings on? Old skyscrapers, even regular buildings that have more than 2, 3, 4 floors, are all built out of Barzel.
Some of them they make out of glass. You look at them.
Glass outside
No,
the outside.
it's
There's nothing,
outside, but
nothing's
it's
made out of
steel
glass.
Yeah.
It's all steel beams. It's all steel. It's all steel,
This is the most expensive in the building.
right? Barzel. The also so Zov v'Chesed Nechoshes. The Beis hamikdash Shlishi is going to be Barzel, which is a big pella. You would think Barzel. Barzel is also in the Beis hamikdash. So listen what the Rebbe has to say, and then think about it. First of all, there's the Inyan in Chassidus and Kabbalah. Barzel is Rosh Taves. Bila, Rachel, Zilpa, Leah. What's the connection of Bila, Rachel, Zilpa, Leah to Barzel? So first of all, because there's Kedusha, there's Barzel and Kedusha. We just said there's the negative Barzel and there's the positive. There's the Kedusha Barzel, Eretz HaShavoneh Barzel, Am Ksheyorev, the Tkifus of a Yid, and then there's the negative Barzel. There is, by Oig it says, Arsoy Eretz Barzel, which is the Gdala Demos of Tuma, which it says in Kabbalah, Dalet B'chinas the Nuk for the Klippa. The truth is, even Zilpa, Bila Rachel Zilpa Leah is also not so positive. There is a Bir Chassidus that says that this is negative. Why? Think about it for a moment. What's wrong? What sounds wrong over here?
The order.
The order. What's wrong in the order?
Rachel is to be first.
What does it say? Bila, then Rachel, Zilpa, then Leah. It's Shivcha Kesidish Gvirta. It's the wrong order. It's the wrong order. First should be the Gvirta, and then should be the Shivcha. The Rebbe says that maybe we could say a pshat that there's also Lamal Yusa, that there's also a mile in it. We're saying everything, the Basel, the Klippa, there's Basel, the Kedusha. Zilpa Leah, there's something in Kedusha. Why? Because the Gemara says, that really the Imos had a higher level of Nevius. And the whole thing about the Lakuta Torah that we learned in this Pashas Vayigash is all about that women are in a higher level than the men. And Allah said, Lavoi will be Eishes Chayil, Teres Baila. That's the whole thing of Pashas Vayigash. That it was also part of the Maimon that we learned Shabbos morning. So it's explained in Chassidus and also in Kabbalah that there's two levels. In general, the Imos are Malchus. The Imos are Malchus. The Oves are the Midas Datzilus. Yosef HaTzadik is Yesoid. And the Imos are Malchus Datzilus. But that's the difference of the Imos and the Shifchas. In Malchus Datzilus is the way Malchus is in Atzilus, and then the way Malchus comes down to give Chayas, to give life to Bri, Yitzir, and Asiyah. The way Malchus is in Atzilus, that's Rochel and Leah. The way they come down is Bila and Zilpa. That's why the Yankovina didn't want to marry Bila and Zilpa, because he didn't want to lower himself so much. That's what it says in Kabbalah. Even also aboinim hoysel reshbina, that Yankovina was moyes in Zilpa and Bila because they were too low. But then, when he married them, he had tzaddikim sons from them. He realized that dafka by lowering himself and marrying them, that he was zeichet to have children tzaddikim. So the shtratim. So really, there was a mila. There is barzel, the negative barzel, and there is the positive barzel. So the same thing is, it's explained in Chassidus that Seif Ma'isa b'machshava tchila, whatever in this world comes to be the lowest, is in its source is the highest. Whatever comes in this world to be the lowest, in its source is the highest. We spoke about the Shabbos. Seif Ma'isa b'machshava tchila. Whatever is your first machshava, and Ma'isa ends up being the very, very last Ma'isa. The very last Ma'isa. You build a house, first thing you think is not about dealing with contractors and paying bills and ordering trucks with cement and having a problem with this neighbor or with the inspector. It's not what you're thinking about. You're thinking about Shabbos afternoon, you're sitting azoi, and you're learning a shtickle, a maimon, and a sicha, and you're drinking a coffee, right? That's what you think about. And that's the first thing you think about. That's the very last thing that happens. Then you have to find the contractor, you have to apply, and you have to get approvals, and you have to get the alle Sachen. 3 years later, you're finally sitting. Why is that the first machshava? Because the most important. The most important thing comes into your machshava first. But then, how do you get to there? There is a long, long process. Same thing in this world. Whatever ends up being soif ma'isa, in the Eibish's machshava, that's tchila. Soif ma'isa b'machshava tchila. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe says that the Mishkan was built doimim, soimeach, chai, medaber. The Karka Mishkan, the wood was made from Tzemeach, and the curtains were made from Chai, from the Tzemer and from the Netchoshim. But the Beis hamikdash, which was Me'ein Olam Haba, was built out of Avonim. Avonim is the lowest thing, but because that's Me'ein Olam Haba. In Olam Haba, we'll see the Seif Ma'isa Machshavet Chila. We'll see that the ultimate of the Kedusha comes down to the lowest thing in the world, which is there's nothing lower than Avonim. Therefore, the Beis hamikdash was built with Avonim.
I think first Beit HaMikdash and second was no Basel, right? The third one come from Shamayim, Mikshah had one piece, a Basel, stay forever. This way it's called Basel.
The Rebbe says that there's a raya that the third Beis hamikdash is going to have Barzel. And it makes sense because Barzel is the lowest thing, and then it will also love it'll be Neshapach to be the highest thing. Where do you mine Barzel? There's Avonim. Barzel is lower. You have to go to the lowest place. You have to dig and you have to mine Barzel. So Barzel is not just Avonim.
That's
It's lower.
Coal mines?
Huh?
Get it from coal mines?
Not coal mines. You get it from under the ground. You have to mine it.
What,
Yeah,
Barzel?
Barzel.
It's like dirt, and when you cook it, make hot. That's how you make
Right.
it.
From under the earth.
Like chilling.
So, exactly. The flanking is on the bottom. So the Rebbe says like this. First of all, there's a raya that Rebbe says that in the third Beis hamikdash is going to be Barzel. What's the raya? It says in Divrei Hayomim, "V'hachinoisi lebeis Elokai, ha'zohav lezov, v'hakesef lekesef, v'nachoshes lenachoshes, ha'barzel lebarzel." David Melech says, "I prepared Zov, Kesef, Nechoshes, and Barzel." Hey, wait a minute. Zov, Kesef, Nechoshes, Barzel. Who needs Barzel? So all the Meforshim talk about it. Hey, what's with the Barzel? Not only that, the Pasuk says, Barzel, Meya Elef Kikorim. I don't know how big a kick it is, but once it's Meya Elef, it sounds like a lot. Even if a kicker is not as big as the whole building we're sitting in, if a kicker is this big, however big it is, well, once it's Meya Elef, it's a lot, right? Who needs Meya Elef kicker if it's also to build?
Where is this now?
Where is it? What are they doing with
It's in
it?
the basement of Yerushalayim.
Oh. So the old Meforshim talk about it. The Ramban says that maybe the Barzel was used as tools outside the Beis hamikdash. But still, the question is, who needs that much Barzel? There's other Meforshim that say that no, maybe in the inner sanctum not, but in the Chatzedis they were allowed to use Barzel. Anyway, the shaila is why this is not mentioned in the Malachim. It's only mentioned in the Divrei Hayomim. So the Rebbe says because it's brought in the older Meforshim, Rashi, in the beginning of Divrei Hayomim, that the whole Divrei Hayomim is because we want to be Meyaches Mashiach Tzidkenu to David HaMelech. David Malka Mashiach to David HaMelech. So really, Divrei Hayomim is talking about, mainly, is recapping the story of David HaMelech. In Malachim, it's talking about how David HaMelech prepared for the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And Divrei Hayomim is talking about how David HaMelech prepared for the third Beis HaMikdash. That's why in Malachim, it's not negay to mention Barzel, because the first and second Beis HaMikdash, they never used Barzel. But in Divrei Hayomim, which is talking about Ta'achonis,
Third one.
to Mashiach, we talk about Barzel. And the Rebbe says it's mistaber that they're going to use Barzel because Barzel is the only thing that you could build that lasts nitzchi. And not only that, what's the reason why the Medrash says that we don't build Barzel in the Beis HaMikdash? It says Zohov v'chesav v'nechoshes aval Barzel ein ksiv kan loma nimshel boy edem shehichrivu Beis HaMikdash. That we don't want to build in the Beis HaMikdash Barzel because that's meramas to the Churban of the Beis HaMikdash. But in the third Beis hamikdash, it's not shaykh. There's not going to be migdash adnai koinen yadecha. It's a binyana de kuchabrichu that's not possible to be destroyed. And so the Beit Sahara is going to be killed. The whole reason is that Barzel is mekatze yom of shalodam, but l'osed lava there is no death. The whole reason why we don't want to have building in the Beis hamikdash Barzel is because that's meramas on the churban, and that's meramas on mekatze yom of shalodam, but that's not shaykh l'osed lava. So therefore, it stands to reason that l'osed lava there will be barzel in the Beis hamikdash, and that's why the pasuk says when David HaMelech prepared the Beis hamikdash, and he was hoping that it's going to be already the third Beis hamikdash, so he prepared zov, kesef, nechoshes, and barzel. But when they built the first in the Beis hamikdash, they didn't use the barzel because I guess they realized everything was miyad Hashem. They were told not to use the barzel. But David HaMelech prepared the barzel. Why? Because la'osed lava in the Beis hamikdash hashlishi we will use barzel, because barzel is something that's is the lowest of the low. Therefore, seif ma'asav ha'machshava tchila. The first and second Beis hamikdash had a mile over the Mishkan. The Mishkan was made tzadem tzameachai, that was built from avonim. Third Beis hamikdash will be built from a barzel, which is even lower than avonim. Eretz asher avaneh barzel. And Barzel is the lowest of the low, and B'shorsh is the highest of the high.
The second Beit HaMikdash, not David built it, he prepared.
He prepared,
Shlomo
right.
HaMelech built it.
Shlomo HaMelech built.
But he
You
didn't
need the
prepare.
material, you need the stones. You need
He prepared the materials.
And then Hashem told him, because you were fighting, so
Right,
you don't build it.
you won't build it.
It's
But the pilot says
It's
in...
from a remes that there should be like a halacha.
Right,
Like, there has to be more power, like some kind of power to it.
it's unbelievable.
It's a remes.
I don't know, but I'm just telling you. The Rebbe thinks that in the third Beis hamikdash, that's why I said maybe tonight you'll consider about buying some stock in the steel companies, because when the Mashiach is going to come and they're going to start building that Beis
They need
hamikdash, is
a lot
going to
of
be
bars
something. It's
The
going to be.
material is there already.
The ready already. The bottle
It's
is
there.
there.
Okay,
It's
so,
there in the basement.
so I didn't say you should buy. I said you should consider. So maybe you're right. So forget about it.
investment, though.
Forget it. Don't invest in the steel.
Avnei Yerushalayim is expensive things. A lot of Jewish people.
The Avnei Yerushalayim.
They have in Chicago, Sephardic shul,
Yeah.
by Raqqa. They built a beautiful shul. All the front is from Avnei Yerushalayim. He shipped it from Yerushalayim. From the next Yerushalayim, they have all these places. Beautiful. You look at it, people take pictures. Only the front.
Wow,
The front of the shul, all you see Avnei Yerushalayim. Unbelievable.
unbelievable.
If you go to Chicago, look at it. Unbelievable.
After go to Chicago, there's a guy, a rich man in Seagate over here. Seagate, after Coney Island, all the way to the right,
Yeah.
he built his house from Avnei Yerushalayim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do I have to go to Seagate or to Chicago? I go to Yerushalayim. Avnei Yerushalayim in
You're going to see it
Yerushalayim.
end of the week, this week.
The only house in Yerushalayim that is not Avnei Yerushalayim, 77.
Yeah, you can have 70.
This
Did
is
I-
Basel.
Exactly.
And to make it out with that when they take these earth from Eretz Israel, like that's another thing they do. They take earth from Eretz Israel to drop into the kever.
Right, a little bit.
But they don't realize that according to the halacha, even once you take the earth out of Eretz Israel, it's no longer a part of Eretz Israel.
Uh-huh.
And the same thing with the stones.
It's a business.
No. It's a
It's
minig.
exactly,
It's a minig atik from the Chevra Kedisha. So just to finish off, the emissaries that Rebbe says in the second Beis hamikdash they used a little bit of barzel. It's brought it that the Chashmonaim couldn't afford to make a fancy menorah from Zov, so they used barzel. Also in the second Beis hamikdash they had this thing kala arva that they didn't want to have birds sitting over there and make their droppings like you see. You go on Avenue J, when you go under the train. Sometimes you even get a fresh dropping.
It's good for the hair.
Yeah. Baruch Hashem, we wear hats.
It's
But,
if I can, you can
you'll never get it.
Yeah.
have your waist. I did that a few
Yeah.
times, but now they close it off.
So, Baruch Hashem, they're closing it off. So they didn't want to have that. So they made the kala arva. They had this metal thing with spikes. Metal things with spikes. And most stores today don't even sell it. I think in New York it's not so kosher to sell. They sell you today these plastic things. They don't work as good, like the old ones, the metal ones. If you know I'm talking about that people that put up these metal spikes. wherever the birds decide they want to sit there for a while, and they don't like to sleep, and then they make droppings and they make noise. So people buy these things. If you go today to a regular store, they sell them only in plastic. They don't sell them out of metal. But Amol, they used to sell them out of metal. So they had these things. They had them in the Beis hamikdash. The Oruch says in the first Beis hamikdash they didn't need it because the kedusha was so intense that no bird ever, like the story with Rabbi Yochanan Marsov. There was no birds that ever got close to the Makam hamikdash. In the second Beis hamikdash, the kedusha was not so intense, and therefore they needed. So they used the barzel. So in the second Beis hamikdash, they did use a little bit of barzel. The Rebbe says it could be that the first Beis hamikdash, they didn't lower themselves to purify the world. But in the second Beis hamikdash, even though the kedusha was lower, but they lowered themselves to purify the world. So therefore, they wanted to use barzel. But the barzel was only used at minimum in the place of the mizbeach and also on top of the roof of the Beis hamikdash. But we're going to use the barzel, which is the lowest of the low, will be nesapach to be the highest of the high to build the Beis hamikdash. The second Beis hamikdash, the first Beis hamikdash, was also to use barzel. We're going to use barzel in the Beis hamikdash.
Maybe the second Beis hamikdash, the bird, they were so holy, they hold themselves not to make.
No, in the first one. The first, right? That's what he says, Dora.
Oh, he said that. Yeah.
There was no problem because he says there was no problem with the birds,
Holy.
and it's brought in the Tosfos and the Menachos and Erchim. But the first Beis hamikdash, they didn't need it. The second Beis hamikdash, they needed it, and that's also connected with the pasuk that talks about when Sancheiriv was, when they came against Yerushalayim. We read it in the Haftorah of Achron Shal Pesach. V'nikef sivcha yarba barzel. So there's a concept of barzel of lost, of negative, and there's a barzel of kedusha. So even though in the Nevuah of Yecheskel it says V'ata ben Adam kach l'cholavena, V'ata kach l'chamach vas barzel masat, there's a kid barzel bein chobein ayir, which is nebach kilo. There is a mechitza shel barzel between the Eibush and the Yidden, but the job of asor taves is fakir, to be mahapach the barzel from a negative barzel to become a positive barzel.
So how they make in Bet HaMikdash shchita? They only the sakin, the shchita?
No, sakin shchita, but not to build. Obviously, sakin
use it.
shchita. Yeah, but not in the chelik of
Not to
the,
build with them.
not right, not a chelik in the binyan of the Beis hamikdash. So that's this week, and that's really what we have to do this week. The job of this week is that we should be am ksheyoyref l'mal yusa, should take barzel, that there should be talmid chochem kosher kebarzel, to stand up to the world like a barzel, turn around the barzel of lumazet to become barzel to kedusha, and to be zoicha, because asor b'tevis is the most difficult of the taniyas. So when it'll become a yom tov, it'll become the biggest yom tov of the. That's why it's also an asor b'tevis. Tavis has to do with is the 10th month, and the third Beis hamikdash has to do with the number 10. The Shida Hasidus, Pora Hasidus, Minyan Hasidah. Then there's going to be the land of the 10 nations. So that has to do with the 10th day and the 10th month. So that's the job of our week. Of this week, the job for this week is to take the barzel of Lomaza and to turn it into barzel to kedusha. And with this, we'll be zoiche to rebuild the Beis hamikdash with the barzel.